Okay, she's in the office now.
Great.
So, shall we start? I guess she can join just later on. Okay, so hello everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you for joining the live session today. I'm Ahmed Dandashi, Academic Mentorship Project Coordinator at Jusoor. Of course, as part of our academic webinar series, we've dedicated the session today for Jusoor-ISOW Scholarship that was already announced on Jusoor social media platforms almost a month ago, and also we have announced for the webinar today early this week. Before we start with our agenda, I would like to remind you all that the session is recorded and live streamed on Qabila group on Facebook and Zoom as well. So you can access the recorded session later on if you didn't have the chance to attend it live. Also, you can leave your questions in the Q&A box, so the speakers can answer we'll have the time to answer the second part of the session today. Let me start to introduce our guests for today, who will help us learn more about the scholarship and the application process and other related information. Our first guest is Sarah Shedeed, the head of scholarships at Jusoor. Sarah coordinates partnerships to expand access to secondary and higher education for Syrian youth, helping them to realize their potential and contribute to the future of Syria. Sarah has 10 years of experience working with both formal and non-formal education. She has a master's degree in international education and development from Teachers College, Columbia University, and a Bachelor of Science and Diplomacy and International Relations from the Seton Hall University. Our second guest today is Taryn Tufford. Taryn is an intern at ISOW International Students Overcoming War. She's been working with student leaders in the ISOW program to achieve their leadership goals and supporting ISOW and Jusoor scholars in their transition to Canada. She graduated from the languages program at Wilfrid Laurier University in 2019, and she's also alumni of the ISOW program where she worked as an assistant director of scholar support in 2017-2018 and vice president in 2018-2019. And lastly, our third guest and last guest is Alik Sarian. Alik is Jusoor-ISOW Alumni. She graduated in 2022 with a Bachelor of Health Sciences from Wilfrid Laurier University. Alik wishes to continue her education and pursue a medical degree in future. Welcome, Sarah, Taryn, and hopefully Alik will be joining later on. Thank you for making the time to attend and participate in the session today. Sarah, I'll leave the floor to you to start.
Thank you, Ahmed. Alik is with us. She's able to join. So thank you, Ahmed, for the introduction and for hosting us today. And thank you, Alik and Taryn, for joining us. I'm going to start by giving you just a brief overview of the Jusoor-ISOW Scholarship, of our partnership, and our eligibility criteria. So Jusoor and ISOW, International Students Overcoming War, have been partnered since 2016. And we're very grateful for our partnership with ISOW and Wilfrid Laurier University to provide scholarships to Syrian women, as Jusoor has a scholarship program called 100 Syrian Women, 10,000 Syrian Lives. And it's that scholarship that we offer alongside ISOW at Wilfrid Laurier University. So, so far we've had about 41 100 Syrian women scholars, and 18 of them have been students at Wilfrid Laurier University. And we value our partnership very much for many reasons, but starting with the individualized attention that our scholars get at Wilfrid Laurier because of our partnership with ISOW, the individualized attention that they get academically, personally, socially, and in helping them to become more accustomed to the academic and cultural environments at Wilfrid Laurier and in Canada. This year, we'll be offering one bachelor's degree scholarship and one master's degree scholarship. At Wilfrid Laurier, the bachelor's degree scholarships are open to students who would like to study in the Faculty of Science. So this means degrees from health sciences to psychology to data science, computer science, biology, chemistry, physics, and so on. The list is quite long, and it is on the website along with the application, and I'll post those links in the chat in just a few minutes. On the master's level, we're offering a master's degree in also a few eligible programs, so education, international public policy, applied politics, mathematics, global justice, and culture, society and global justice, something along those lines. I think I butchered that name a little bit. Yes, religion, culture, and global justice, cultural analysis and social theory, as well as English and history. So these are also listed on the website. But something very important to go over now is the eligibility criteria. As I said, this is a scholarship for women. So the applicants must be female, and they also must be either Syrian or Palestinian refugee from Syria. So that's very, very important. And the candidates must be living in Syria or a surrounding host country, such as Lebanon, Jordan, Turkey, Egypt, or Iraq at the time of selection. So if you're not living in one of those countries, when you apply for the scholarship, it's unlikely that you will be selected for the scholarship based on that. In addition, we have other eligibility criteria. For example, if you are applying for a bachelor's degree, you must have already graduated high school or be in your last year of high school. So you will graduate in May or June 2023. The same for a master's degree, you must already have a bachelor's degree or be in your last year of study for your bachelor's degree and ready to graduate in May 2023. Very importantly as well, if you already have a bachelor's degree, you are not eligible to apply for the bachelor's degree scholarship. And if you already have a master's degree, you are not eligible to apply for the master's degree scholarship. In addition, we usually require a GPA of 3.0 or better, 3.0 out of 4 on the American scale. Now, on the 100 scale, 100%, a 3.0 is a 75%. So your GPA should be 75 out of 100 or higher. It is important that sometimes, depending on the program that you are applying to, depending on the university you are at or the high school, sometimes we are able to make exceptions where we will, accept maybe a 2.8 or a 2.9, 72, 73. But this is very much dependent on the program that you're applying to and on the university. So we'll, and Taryn later will talk a little bit more about the admissions requirements. Also, candidates must have a strong record of leadership and community engagement, which is demonstrated through volunteer experience, through work experience. We do understand, especially for our younger applicants who are applying to bachelor's degrees, that not everybody has the opportunity to have official volunteer experience with an NGO or some other organization. We recognize that. So on the application, we have a note that there is an essay question about your community engagement. And there is a note that says, we want to know, for example, how have you helped your family? How have you helped your friends? How have you helped the people living in your building, for example? We've had applicants even talk about, for example, in Lebanon, where we often have electricity cuts, how they helped the old people in their building when there were electricity cuts. These are ways of being engaged in your community. And we don't want you to think that you have to have a full CV of formal volunteer experience with big organizations. Okay, so just make sure that when you answer that question, you're very clear and you really think about the way you've helped people. If you have tutored people, if you have volunteered in your school, there are so many ways that you can demonstrate volunteer experience. The same for master's candidates. We look for volunteer experience, formal or informal, but we also like to see work experience if possible. If you've not had that opportunity, that's fine, but we do like to see, if you have had work experience, we like to see the details about that. In addition, our candidates must demonstrate a willingness and an intent to contribute to the redevelopment of Syria. This means the advancement of the Syrian population globally. It does not mean that you have to return to Syria after the duration of your study. It just means that we want to see that you are keeping in mind with your career plans how you can contribute to the redevelopment of Syria and to the advancement of the Syrian community globally. And we always give the example for that we have an alumni who is working on our team. For example, someone who got a Jusoor scholarship and now works for Jusoor. We have alumni who are working for NGOs globally. We have alumni who are founding organizations to help Syrians, whether it's abroad or in the region. So we like to see that you have some intent to contribute to the Syrian community. In addition, the candidates must demonstrate a willingness and an intent to participate in ISOW initiatives in Canada and in Jusoor's community. So this is very important because when you are awarded a scholarship, you are asked to sign a scholar contract with Jusoor. This outlines your commitment to keep us updated on your academic performance. You are committing to attending online meetings with the Jusoor community. You are committing to signing a consent form that outlines us being able to use your name and your photo on our website and social media. And you are committing to attending Jusoor events if and when they happen in Canada or later on when you're alumni, wherever you are living. In addition, we prefer that we prefer to give our scholarships to candidates who demonstrate financial need, and we don't ask you for documents to prove this, but we will ask you questions about your financial and family situation. And it is important to note that when you fill out the application, because the essay questions on the application are all really based on these eligibility criteria, that you provide answers that are detailed and honest and creative. There's no right or wrong way to answer, but we just like to see an authentic answers. And we like to see answers that have evidence. So when you answer the question about community engagement, or when you answer the question about how you intend to use your time as a Jusoor-ISOW scholar, provide us with evidence. Research Jusoor, research ISOW, understand who we are, understand the program that you're applying to. I think that that's about it from the Jusoor side. I will say just that, by joining Jusoor, becoming a Jusoor scholar, you really have an access to a big network of Syrian scholars and of academics and practitioners. And so you really benefit from being part of that community. And now I think I'll pass it to Taryn, and if anyone has any questions, we'll take them at the end. Ahmed has already reminded you to please put them in the Q&A box, but I will do so again anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to see you all here today. Thank you for joining us. Sarah, thank you for the great overview of our scholarship. I think you talked on all the points that I was thinking about. So from my perspective, I just want to give a little bit of information about Wilfrid Laurier University and the ISOW program. So Wilfrid Laurier University is relatively small by Canadian university standards and spread over 2 campuses. So the programs you can apply for will be on the Waterloo campus, just because of where our scholarship is located and where the supports are located for you. And so there are roughly, I think, 14,000 students on the campus. That fluctuates each year. And we're located in Waterloo, Ontario, which is about an hour drive from Toronto as I'm sure more of you are familiar with Toronto than Waterloo. The ISOW program in particular is a student-run scholarship program. So the ISOW financial contribution is raised by students here at Laurier. So each undergrad student pays $8 in their tuition to fund these scholarships, and grad students pay $4. We also have accepted students not just from Syria, but also Palestine, Somalia, Afghanistan, and Myanmar. So you'll be able to touch base with a quite global cohort of other ISOW scholars when you arrive. And as Sarah mentioned, because our group is relatively small and contained at Waterloo campus, there's a lot of opportunities for peer-to-peer support for academics, social concerns, and like just to form friendships with you as well. So we're able to help support you through that transition. In regards to the requirements, I suppose, for Laurier, you, just so you all know, you won't have to apply to Laurier until such point that you've been selected for the scholarship. This way we can help you work through the application, and also there's a way to internally waive the application fees that you won't be able to access outside of the ISOW program. So don't worry about submitting any application until you've been chosen, and we will help you facilitate that as well, so no worries. And also, once you've been selected for the scholarship, we will also support you through applying for your student visa. I know you may have heard many things about visas, but ISOW's had good luck with getting students their visas, as we get letters from the school and from local members of parliament to speak to the validity of the scholarship. So you don't need to worry too much about your visas at this time either. We'll help you work through all of those processes. The scholarship covers all, or the great majority of the expenses that you would incur as a student. So that includes healthcare, which is included in your international student tuition, your tuition, books, travel to Laurier and home once a year for undergraduate students. There are emergency fees if you have like health concerns that go above and beyond what the school provides. And there are different fees to help you academically and socially as well. So if needs arise for those, we can discuss them more at the time. Some important information to know: each program, so for undergraduates, I'll start there because it's pretty consistent. So the types of documents you'll need to prove to Laurier, or not prove, but provide Laurier in order to be accepted, would be your transcripts from your high school or any other studies completed. And they would need to be in English if they're not already translated. And you would need to do an English test of sorts, unless you have studied in English previously, in which case you can use the transcripts in lieu of an English test. So Laurier for undergrads accepts Duolingo, IELTS, and TOEFL, as well as some other more obscure ones, but I can post that link in the chat so you know. And again, you don't necessarily need them when you accept the scholarship, but you will need to provide them in order to be accepted to the university. And then there'll be like some simple information about yourself that they'll need to fill out your profile. So relatively low-key requirements. For master's degree students, they'll be a little bit different each time, but overall, all master's students will need to provide, again, some basic information about themselves to create a Laurier profile, your university transcripts from your undergraduate degree and any other studies you did. You'll need to prepare a statement of intent, which again, if you're the successful candidate, we will go over that at the time, and an English test as well. So unfortunately, master's students aren't able to submit Duolingo, but TOEFL and IELTS both are options that you can use. And then also they typically ask to see a writing sample in English. So you don't have to worry about that at this time, but just know that these things are coming up if you're a master's student. And again, I can put the English language links in the chat. I won't take too much more time because I want to save time for everybody to have questions and for Alik to talk a little bit about her experiences. But if you have any questions about applying to Laurier or ISOW, please do let us know and we'll answer them once Alik has spoken.
Ahmed, sorry, can I just jump in for 1 minute?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, Alik, before Taryn, two things very important that I forgot to mention. First is that we do accept applications from transfer students as well. So if you're currently pursuing a bachelor's degree and you're in the beginning of your studies, you can apply for the bachelor's degree, for example. Also, because Taryn was talking about required documents. On the application, when you apply to Jusoor, you have to provide a copy of your ID, a copy of your transcript, when you apply when you upload a copy of your transcripts, please include an English copy and the original copy in Arabic if it's not in English originally, or if it's in Turkish or whatever it may be. You must provide the original copy. We won't go just on the translated copy, particularly if you have translated it yourself. If you have gotten it officially translated, that's a different story, but we do allow you to self-translate so that you don't have to pay the fees to get it translated. But we need to see also the original copy in the original language, whether it's Arabic or Turkish or anything else. Another aspect is the recommendation letters. So you need 2 recommendation letters, one from a professor or your teacher if you're in high school. Very important, if you are a transfer student applying, you're already started your bachelor's degree. Depending on where you are in your bachelor's degree study, we will require a professor's recommendation letter. So if you are, for example, in your 2nd year of bachelor's degree study, you need to provide a recommendation letter from your professor, not from your teacher from high school. If you're still in your 1st year, we may be able to accept a recommendation letter from a teacher. It depends on the program. The second thing is that the second recommendation letter is from either your supervisor from work, your supervisor from a volunteer experience, or a supervisor from a school club if you're in high school. So for example, if you take part in science Olympiad, or physics Olympiad, you can provide a recommendation from your supervisor. It is important that the recommendation letters are in English and are dated and signed and include the contact information of the recommenders. That's it. Thank you very much. Alik, on to you.
Okay, hello everyone. Oh wait, one sec. Can you guys hear me? Oh, nice, it's working. Sorry, I was just making sure. Hello everyone, my name is Alik. I'm a Jusoor-ISOW Alumna. I graduated last May. I finished a bachelor's in health sciences with minors in biology and chemistry. I think, I don't want to go into too much detail about my experience, but all I'm going to say is, as Taryn and Sarah both mentioned, this scholarship is a very tightly knit community. Everyone loves and supports each other, and you have a lot of people to rely on and ask for help for, because I know that leaving your home country behind and coming to a different place can be scary. But do not worry, ISOW and Jusoor have the appropriate support systems in place, and you'll receive all the support that you need. I think I want to answer a question that I saw in chat just so that I don't miss it. I think someone said, I want to study medicine in Canada, and then how can I join you? So I think an important distinction to be made between pursuing a medical degree in Syria versus Canada is that in North America in general, medical school is a graduate degree, which means you will need to complete an undergraduate degree in order to be qualified to apply for medical school. So something similar to what I did. So you can do any undergraduate program in the sciences, as in health sciences, biology, biochemistry, chemistry, physics, any discipline that you think you would like. And then after completing that, you'll be eligible to apply to medical school. And as we already covered, Jusoor-ISOW, the scholarships are only for undergraduate students and master's students. So the medical school fees itself are not covered by these scholarships. So I just wanted to make that distinction. Otherwise, yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. I would highly recommend everyone apply to it. Do not think that your chances are limited just because there's a lot of people applying to it. Everyone is a solid candidate. Everyone has an opportunity of getting this scholarship, and it's a life-changing one. It definitely changed my life and allowed me to be in the place I am today. So definitely apply, and best of luck. And if you have questions for me, please put them in the chat and I will try my best to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Alik. Thank you, Sarah and Taryn, for the comprehensive information and significant inputs, of course. We've hopefully delivered a very beneficial and informative session for the audience and for the prospective applicants attending today. So it's time now for the audience questions through the Q&A box. Just a kind reminder that I might skip, just for the sake of time, I might skip an answer on behalf of viewers, so just to save some time and to answer new questions. So I'm going to start with the first question. So I'm a married woman and I have children. Can I apply for the scholarship?
Yes, so married women can apply, but it is very important to keep in mind that Jusoor and ISOW and the university do not support the travel of your spouse and children. So we will not pay for your husband and children to go to Canada. We will not help in the visa process. That has nothing to do with us. So you're eligible, but you cannot take your family with you with our support.
Of course, but they're free to do it by their own.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not in my first year at the university. I'm eligible. Yes, so transfer students are eligible to apply. I want to be sure that the woman should we live in Arabic region? Yes. Turkey, Jordan, Iraq, Egypt, Lebanon. What else? Sarah? Iraq.
Yes.
So the surrounding areas of Levant region in general. I asked because I live in Turkey. Turkey is eligible to apply from. Do we need cover letter or questions in form is enough for master's degree? So do we need cover letter or questions in form is no, I guess the questions separate than the cover letter. Please, Sarah, you can jump in.
Yeah, so the essay questions are listed on the application. You will have to provide a CV and answer the essay questions, but no cover letter. But I think Taryn mentioned that you might need a motivation letter for some programs.
Yeah, for master's degrees, you'll need to fill out a statement of intent, but there's specific questions and you'll answer about why you're interested in pursuing your degree and kind of some background information to you. But this will be like after you're accepted to the Jusoor-ISOW Scholarships, so you don't need to worry about writing this until then. And for master's degrees, you will probably need a resume as well, but the statement of intent that I spoke about would take the place of the cover letter for that.
Yeah, of course. Do grades affect scholarship acceptance? Of course, yes. Sarah, just you can jump in, Sarah, but just already mentioned that there's a certain school, and already mentioned in the or listed in the eligibility criteria and the link that provided in the chat. I would like to ask if the ID should be translated into English, and what is the English test that is required for bachelor degree? IELTS, TOEFL, and Duolingo for bachelor, but for masters is only TOEFL and IELTS.
Yes, and your ID doesn't need to be translated.
Okay, great. So the scholarship isn't suitable for medical undergraduates. This is another question for the medicine. So she's asking if the scholarship isn't suitable for medical undergraduates.
Yeah, Alik.
So it's not that the scholarship isn't suitable. High school graduates cannot enter medical school directly in Canada or in the United States in general. So you would need to do an undergraduate degree before applying to medical school. And ISOW and Jusoor would definitely help you with this because this is an undergraduate scholarship. So by getting this and completing your undergraduate degree in whatever discipline you choose, you will be eligible to apply to medical schools in Canada and the United States. But as I said, you cannot directly go into these schools in these countries. I hope that answers the question.
Hopefully. So the other question is, I graduated from undergraduate this October, and I want to apply for the master's degree. Well, my papers are not done yet. So for the ones who already graduated, but they don't have the papers yet.
But by papers, if they mean degree or transcript, we would just need the most recent transcripts that you have from your university. And then if you're accepted to the scholarship or later on, we'll ask you for the final copy of the transcript.
Great. I want to apply for master's degree. I studied translation English. I want to know if I don't have an IELTS, can I get the scholarship? So for translation graduates, do they have to provide IELTS or TOEFL or no?
If the language of instruction for your translation degree was at least partially in English, like the classes were taught in English, the professor spoke English to you and you submitted English assignments, then you would likely be exempt from the English requirement. But if you were taught in a different language, unfortunately, you would still have to submit an English test.
They already specify that the translation is English-Arabic major at the university. So
then yeah, that should be okay.
That should be okay. Is there a problem for the interpreting and the translation? Is there a problem for the interpreting or the translation? I guess yes, and for the masters, yes or no? For the available majors for translation or interpreting?
No, there's a degree in English, but that's it. Not interpreting and translation.
Okay. I also had to apply to a tourist ID card instead of the refugee ID because the Turkish government doesn't issue the refugee IDs anymore. So am I still eligible for this?
Yes, so we don't require you to have a refugee status. You don't need that. So whatever ID you have,
Of course.
and that's fine as long as you're a Syrian or Palestinian from Syria.
Yeah, of course. I'm just the ones who live in Lebanon, join like the UNHCR registration paper.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so which age can benefit from the master's scholarship? I guess there's no age limit, right? No
Yes,
age limit.
we don't have an age limit.
Okay, in terms of the essays, is it okay if I type them in a creative way, like the person's statement about applying to the United States?
I think it depends how we mean creative. I mean, we want, when I say creative, I don't necessarily mean creative writing, like on a, I think maybe a Western definition of like telling a story. When I say creative, I mean, we want to see, yeah, exactly. We'd like to see your ideas. We want you to be creative about thinking about how you engage in your community. We want you to be creative about how you will contribute to Jusoor and to the Syrian community during and after your studies, to ISOW's community. I think Taryn,
right.
you have anything to add?
Yeah, and just so from a admissions perspective, sometimes if your English score, if you like one of the categories you're a bit lower than you're supposed to be, we would look at your written English as a way to like articulate to the admissions officers that yes, they're comfortable writing in English. So it's like another way for us to help you with your application. So creativity is good, but if it's not helpful to see how you would write in a academic setting, yeah, so it might not help you in the long run.
Of course. So Duolingo English, okay, we said like for the bachelor degree, Duolingo test is accepted. Just to make my question clear, can I write my essays in freestyle like the person's statement, or I should commit it to the essay style like the TOEFL? This is for the same question about the essay writing. So yeah, just answer the question.
I think Taryn, just to be sure, I'll defer to you, Taryn. Just essay style, right? Like TOEFL.
Yeah, I think that's good. If there's like a way, it's more about like how the mechanics of writing, I think, from like Wilfrid Laurier's perspective, like making sure you have a good command of the English language. So yeah, essay style is a good way to demonstrate that, definitely.
Okay, so I took the SAT recently. Does that support my application? If yes, how can I submit it with my application? So is that accepted or no? Only TOEFL and IELTS?
You don't take the SAT, right, Taryn?
SAT,
and Wilfrid Laurier?
No, we don't do SATs
only US.
in Canada. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Are there specific master's programs that one can choose? Yes, I guess they're listed in the link for the master's already listed in the chat, so you can access the master's page and then you can see the listed majors. So this is my last year of pharmacy in Syria. I study in English. So when is the best time to apply, and what is the master's for pharmacy?
And we don't, pharmacy is not included in the eligible master's degree. Sorry.
Yeah, we don't have a pharmacy program at Laurier, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. So is it important to have an IELTS certificate to study bachelor degree? Does it affect my acceptance chance if I don't have that certificate? Of course, yes. Unless we do have the other options, which is Duolingo and there's TOEFL.
You would need to submit that at the time that we're applying to the university. So
yeah,
if you're like working on it in the meantime, that's one thing, but you'll need it eventually.
Yeah. So I have a question regarding my high school transcripts. When I came to Turkey, I had to register in a Syrian high school, more than specifically a temporary education center for Syrian refugee students in Turkey middle school. So my transcript includes the name and the middle school instead of the high school. So
yes, that's fine. What we'll need to see is your transcript with the courses that you took and your grades. We understand that the name of the school will be the middle school. That's okay.
Okay, great. So I guess like we're on time today, so we do have so many questions. I guess if you still have any questions, you can reach out to us to our social media or our posts, so we can or our email scholarships at jusoor.ngo, so they
We
can
got
read.
one more.
Hmm?
One more. We got one more question. What will let my application stand
Ah,
out? Honestly, what will let your application stand out? And I think maybe I can speak to this, and Taryn and Alik, as Alik is not only one of our scholars, but she also participated in our scholar selection process this year. So when we chose the new Jusoor scholar this year, Alik was involved in that process. So, you know, for Jusoor, we, like I said before, we like to see honest answers. We like to see creative answers, authentic answers. We want to see a little bit of you in your answers. You know, we want to get to know you through your essay questions. So, Alik, maybe you want to talk to that, speak to that.
Yeah, I think I can add on to this. I think, as Sarah mentioned, it's not about having fancy achievements or accomplishments or like going to space or working for NASA. It's more about having your own personal touch to stuff. Oh, sorry. It's having your own personal touch to stuff and showing that, okay, like we mentioned the TOEFL requirements for an essay. So, you know, introduction, body, conclusion type of thing. But we want to see you, right? We want to see how this prompt applies to you, how the experience that you decided to highlight, what was special about it. It's not like, oh, I volunteered in a hospital. That's your entire essay. Your essay should be more like, I volunteered at a hospital, and then I had this relationship with this one patient that changed my perspective on things, and I decided to help and did this and that. Of course, this is just an example. You don't have to write about the hospital, but I think the most important part is to make it personalized. Is my advice. So we want to know. So this is your application is a bunch of words. So help us try to get to know you by writing about yourself and trying to explain your perspective through your essay. That's your voice.
Yeah, so we do have another question. So can I apply for a bachelor even when I finish my bachelor degree here? I guess no. If they finish, unless if they're applying for a master's degree.
Yes, so two things. First, yeah, you cannot do a second bachelor's degree. If you already have one, you are not eligible for the bachelor's degree scholarship. And just to add on to the answer to the last question, it's really important that you provide evidence. So Ali gave you a very specific example. It was hypothetical, but it was specific. Another aspect is when there's a question that asks about how you plan to contribute to the redevelopment of Syria.
Yeah.
We need to see detailed answers on that. You know, a question that says, "Oh, I want to study education because I want to make the education system in Syria better." How? How do you make the education system better? Provide proof. I want to study data science because I want to improve technology in Syria. How can you use data science to improve technology in Syria, to make people's lives better and easier? What are the specific things that you can do in your career? Another aspect is, and I mentioned this before, but when you answer the question about how you use your time as a Jusoor-ISOW scholar, how you'll be an ambassador of Jusoor, it's very important that you look into Jusoor and ISOW. We often get answers that are very vague, or, you know, it's an honor. We are glad that it's an honor, and it's an honor for us to support the scholars that we do. But understand the organizations that you're applying to, and understand the commitments that you're making to both Jusoor and to ISOW by accepting a Jusoor-ISOW scholarship.
Yeah. Yes, so true. So let me give some time for others who want to maybe to ask, and maybe to ask you if you have any other tips, general tips for the applicants, besides what we've mentioned during the session today, or some highlights maybe from previous stories or previous applications. So who wants to volunteer?
I can go.
Yeah.
I think I already mentioned this before, but I'm gonna re-emphasize because I think it's very important. So the community, the sense of community. So the people, the scholars that you come and live and interact and study with are very important. And then if I want to highlight one of the most memorable times of my time as an ISOW scholar would be me arriving to the airport and then seeing like almost a group of 20 people just waiting for me with like smiling faces and embracing hands. Like they didn't even know me. Half of them just met me, right? Yeah. But then this speaks mountains to the sense of community and the commitment and the people who are just here for you and they're willing to help you. So word of advice, if you're having a doubts or if you're hesitant, just apply. I think everyone has very strong chances of getting this scholarship, and it's truly life-changing. So apply. You will not regret it. It's going to be worth your time, and it's an amazing opportunity. That's my advice.
Of course, of course. Taryn and Sarah, do you have any other tips and recommendations for the applicants?
Yeah, for sure. I think I've been a part of a couple selection processes now, so I've seen a lot of applications, and there are some that really stand out just by the detail they gave to the questions and the ways that they, if maybe they didn't have like a perfect fit for an answer, rather than leaving it blank, they found a creative way to answer it. So to the point about like maybe the event that you're speaking about doesn't seem that big of a deal to you, or maybe it seems kind of like, oh, that's just something I do. I think it's good to expand your mind as to what volunteering means or what helping others means. So you don't have to be like the head of an NGO or like of a huge paid position or something. So even small ways that you've helped other people, even helping your family or your friends, is still helping. So I just want to urge you to answer all those questions, because the more questions you answer, the more we can see about you and get to know you and feel like we're connecting with you. So even if you don't have a perfect answer, finding a way to answer it that still answers the question, but maybe not in the most direct way as you think. So yeah, just give us every opportunity you can for us to get to know you more. And I think another thing that has stood out to me is how people find ways to like speak about their desired program and how that relates to the way that they'll redevelop Syria, or the way that they'll be an ambassador for ISOW or Jusoor. So showing us how that you've thought about the degree and you kind of have a plan for it is also very helpful for us to understand what your motivations are and to kind of get to know you a little better as well. So those are two things that I can think of that are helpful for us when we're looking at your applications.
No, that's so helpful. So, thank you. Sarah, you have anything to add?
I think I said my piece. I think I gave all the tips that I can. Just to reiterate what Taryn and Alik said, both of them gave excellent advice. So follow that, and hopefully, you'll be able to write a strong application and take your time. We still have 1 more month before the applications are due. We don't consider you more if you apply early. So, when you apply, it doesn't affect your application unless you apply late. If you apply late, you won't be considered. But the deadline right now is January 8th at 11:59 p.m. in your time zone, ideally, in the Middle East, EET.
That was actually my second question. So do you recommend them like to be just to hire in the application, or maybe to take their time, or no, maybe to have that balance or kind of balance?
Definitely take their time. Definitely take their time. And like Taryn said, understand the program you're applying to. And in the same way, if you're applying to a master's degree program, we also like to see how your previous studies relate to what you're going to study and how you're going to use it in your career. Sometimes we study something a little bit different in our bachelor's degree than we might study in our master's degree. Usually not entirely different. I don't think a lot of people are studying English and then engineering. But we do sometimes change our courses a little bit. So in either case, we like to see that you're really taking what you've already learned and applying it to what you will learn and what you will do in your career.
Yeah, of course. There's another point that you already mentioned, guys, about the speaking about the essay answer, which is the redevelopment of Syria. But I just wanted to re-emphasize on this, like whether it should be inside or outside Syria, the redevelopment of Syria, because it's it's a very common question, and it's a very tricky question for some people, because they think that maybe the redevelopment of Syria should be in a certain way, a certain geographic way. So if you just want to emphasize on this.
Absolutely. Can be from anywhere. The founders of Jusoor are Syrians who live abroad, either because they were born abroad or they went abroad. So this is really important to consider, as Jusoor as an organization that is working for Syrians.
And also about the scale of their maybe potential of the future intervention as well.
Yes,
so
exactly.
They have like a bigger, as just said, like you're not going to be the head of organizations, maybe like to be very small contribution can be fit for
Exactly.
the application. So, okay, we do have 3 questions for now. Is the passport necessary? If yes, how long does it have to be with us?
So yeah, to get an international student visa, which is how this program works, you will need a passport. Typically, it has to be valid for longer than 6 months. But in fact, for study permits, I recommend at least like valid for 2 years. For undergraduate students, there's the opportunity to return home, wherever home may be for you, throughout the study. So if you need to go home and renew it, that's okay. But like the Canadian immigration will not issue it if it's under a year validity. So I would say at least have 1 year. More is better, but at least 1 year valid on your passport.
Yeah, so it's immigration office issue more than the university admission. Well, so I'm a first semester in the Lebanese university and wasn't completed. Okay, so as we just said, like transfer students are eligible to apply, of course, for the
Yeah. Yeah, and just if you're in still your first semester of Lebanese, you can usually apply to programs using a recommendation letter from your high school teachers. But Taryn, does that apply to most programs, do you think, if they're in their first semester still?
Yeah, so for undergraduate students, the recommendation letter is only needed for like the scholarship piece, not for applying to Laurier. Only master students would need reference letters. And the way that the application works is that you would put in the email of the person you want to be your reference, and they send an email, and your reference would reply, or your referee would reply to that email. So just something to keep in mind. But for undergraduate students, it would only be necessary for the Jusoor-ISOW piece, not the Laurier piece.
Yeah, of course. And for the ones asking about the recorded session, yes, it's recorded and you can access the recorded session on the Qabila group on Facebook, so you can just revisit the live stream. So I think no more questions. If you have any other questions, the email in the chat, scholarships@jusoor.ngo. You can reach out whether you have any other questions, or we might have answered your questions during the session, so you can access the recorded session to maybe to revisit what we've been talking about during the webinar. I guess that's it for today. Thank you again, everyone, for attending. Thank you, Sarah, Alik, Taryn, for your participation today. And happy holidays in advance for the ones celebrating. We'll be back hopefully with a new scheduled webinars next year. So anything that you want to add in the end?
I just see that there's one more question. Is it necessary to have work experience as a master's application? No, it's okay. It depends on your individual situation. Did you graduate your undergrad 6 years ago and you still haven't been able to work? Did you just graduate your undergrad and so you're transitioning into your master's degree? What is your personal situation? Where are you living? We take all of these into consideration. So just be sure, if you don't have work experience, just explain it in your application.
Of course. Just have like a logical track or professional track, etc.
Exactly.
So for the ones raising the hand, unfortunately, technically, we can't take you on the call. So you can leave your question in the Q&A box. So I'm gonna give you like a few seconds to leave your question in the Q&A box. Okay, if not, then...
Yeah, we can wait a minute or two. It's okay.
Okay.
In the meantime, responding to you, Ahmed, thank you very much for hosting us, and thank you, Alik and Taryn, for your time.
Thank you. That's of
course.
Any last words for the audience today that you want to add? I guess we got the question. An undergraduate applicant, first year, by the date. Okay, I want to receive and transcript. Okay, I guess we've spoken about this, about transfer students. Yeah. But if they don't have any transcript, they can get the high school transcript, right? For
Yes, since you're in your first year, submit your high school transcripts and we will follow up with you. If you are selected for an interview, we will follow up with you for your university grades.
Okay. So
great.
I guess shall we leave some additional time
Oh,
for?
you're welcome.
Okay,
Yes,
we have another.
the Q&A
Just
says
like
thank
to
you.
thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you. You're welcome. So
Okay,
thank you
thank you
everyone
very
for
much.
attending. Thank you guys for the participation and happy holidays for everyone. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Thanks.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. There is a question. There is another
Yeah,
question
about the
about the
interview.
interview.
Yeah,
That's a great question.
yeah.
Yes, we can talk a little bit about the interview. So the interview asks several questions. Some of them are similar to what was in the application. So we asked you to expand on what you said in the application concerning your career plans, concerning how you plan to contribute to the redevelopment of Syria. We also asked questions about perseverance, autonomy, your work ethic. Taryn, do you wanna add anything?
Yeah, and the questions, we're just again trying to know more about you and how you would handle yourself, I guess, in an academic situation. Also, like seeing if you have the kind of like skills to know how to handle problems and situations maturely. So just answer the questions as best you can. Again, there's no right or wrong answers to the questions. We're just looking to know more about you as a person and see about what your plans are for your life and how you think mostly is what we're looking for in those questions.
Just to emphasize that the interview should be in English, not in Arabic at all.
Oh, yes.
Okay, great. So one more question: is the degrees okay? Other degrees is necessary to accept in the application? I guess the grades maybe. So I guess yeah, the GPA or the grades should be one of the eligibility criteria. Yeah. Which years in high school you need for the transcript? So for the high school transcript, which year? I guess the grade 12 or
Yeah. Taryn, is it just the last year or grade 11 as well?
I think if you have the grade 12, that would be what the admissions team is looking for. If you don't yet have your grade 12, they will also look at 11. As many as you have is best, but like necessary for sure would be the most recent at the time of applying. So
yeah, and we know that in some cases, particularly in Lebanon at least, there's by January you don't necessarily have grades. That's fine. You can submit grade 11 as Taryn said, and we'll follow up with you to get more recent ones later.
yeah. And one more question. I'm applying for a bachelor degree, but I finished high school in 2020, so I'm studying in the higher institution of business. Am I still eligible? If not graduated, I think yes, for the first bachelor degree, right? As transfer student.
Yes, we accept the transfer students.
Okay. Cool. Shall we wait for additional 2 minutes just to make sure everyone is answered?
Just in case, yes.
Yeah, I know Alik had to get back to work, but yeah, I'm fine to stay as long as needed.
I guess maybe like additional 5 minutes. So, and maybe we can. Okay, so I should. Okay, so for the I do have a question. In the meantime, so about the spouses or about the families. So of course, like Jusoor can't, or even Wilfrid Laurier can support the spouses transfer or the travel with the whole families. But if they did it by their own, of course, should be no problem with this, right? If they managed to do it by their own, maybe to apply for the visa by their own, but separately from the application and not
Yeah, from Laurier's perspective, we're only allowed to like finance the student themselves, but if they're able to find a way to bring their family here on their own means, then by all means they're welcome to do so.
Yeah, and that wasn't a new question actually. Like,
and
come with me if I get the scholarship. I guess we just
yes, exactly, and it is very important that you recognize that it might not be possible for you to bring your family with you. So we will ask you, if we see that you're married and you have children, we will ask you what you plan to do. It's very important to keep this in mind, especially for a bachelor's degree because it's 4 years, but as well for a master's degree where you could be, consequences of that will be for you and your family.
Yeah, sure, of course. Okay, one more question. Baccalaureate grades should be official ones or the school grades?
Please submit both.
Yeah.
Please submit both.
Of course. Okay. So well, if not, so we can wrap up. Okay, I guess someone raised their hand. Please leave it in the Q&A box, just because technically we can't take you over the call.
And just another thought that's not connected to the last question,
Yeah.
but there remains a lot of ISOW Jusoor scholars living in and around the Waterloo area. So there'll be, in addition to the people who are currently studying, there'll be a network of alumni at your disposal as well that are located close by and maybe studied similar programs. So you'll, even if you have to live away from your family, for example, there'll be lots of people around to support you and help you through this transition, who will know a lot about what you're going through personally, can speak to that.
Yeah, that's really great. So one more question. The final results for the high school will not be ready till August 23. So what should I submit now before January? So Taryn or Sarah?
Yeah, I think whatever your most recent transcript is, like if it's from the previous grade or the previous year, that's okay. Just the most up-to-date ones that you have available to you. We understand that you can't rush the process of your school, so.
Yeah. Should he mention in the application that I already have the transcript, but it's not maybe it's not ready till X date. So should they have to mention this in the application?
They can, yes, they should. Why not?
Yeah. Okay, and okay, so I guess we answered that question. And okay, so last question from my side, and this to give some time to others to ask before we close in 4 minutes. So okay, so just again another reminder of the English testing. So for the bachelor degree, we accept the IELTS and the TOEFL and the Duolingo, and for master's degree only IELTS and TOEFL. But in case of having or graduated from bachelor degrees that the language of instruction was English or for English should be accepted, right? Okay, so, and especially from the universities like AUB, other accredited university that, of course, like it's well known that the language of instruction is English.
Yes.
Okay, there are 2 more questions. Okay, I'm third medical student. Shall I send my second year transcript? I guess medical. We've spoken about the medical students, right? But do you want to jump in?
Yeah, so for medical school, you would have to finish an undergraduate program first. That being said, if you're a medical student right now, there's probably courses that would transfer into other programs like health sciences or biology. So you'd be able to get some of those credits back in Canada. And if your question is asking, like, if you don't have your 3rd year transcripts yet, yes, just submit your 2nd year ones if that's the most up to date you have. So yeah, to pursue medical school in Canada, you would need to finish an undergrad, but as I said, you'd be able to transfer probably quite a few of those courses towards whatever program you hope to study in Canada for your undergraduate degree.
That's great. The last question about the time gap between the high school and this, especially in case of moving to another country. So any problem with the time gap?
No. So we actually, on the application, we ask if you have any gaps in your education. We understand, of course, that if you're moving from one country to another, you might definitely have gaps. That doesn't count against you. We just want to see the progression of your education. And as long as you have completed your education and your grades are good and you meet all of the other eligibility criteria, it's not an issue at all that you have a gap.
Yeah, sure, great. Okay, so last reminder that for the ones who just joined and for the ones that have another questions, I just recommend you to access the recorded session on Qabila group on Facebook. So we may have answered your questions already. Thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Sarah, Taryn, Alik for participating again in in this session today. And now this is like a real wrap up. No, but this is, yeah, of course. Thank you, everyone, and
Thank you.
happy holidays. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Good luck.